secrets of the past shape who we are today? In today's conversation with Erna Buffie, award-winning writer and filmmaker, will take us on a journey through her fascinating career, as well as the deeply moving and emotionally charged novel, Let Us Be True. We're going to explore her insights from documentary storytelling, the hidden layers of her novel, and what it takes to create narratives that resonate across time and cultures. You're watching the Writers' Corner live show. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Imagine a world where the lines of reality blur with the fantastical. Embark on journeys from humble beginnings to the pinnacles of literary greatness. On the Writers' Corner, we delve into the lives of unique wordsmiths, known for their compelling storytelling. They are artisans who craft fantastical realms, etched in our memory long after the final page is turned. Every tale begins with a single word, a single idea. Authors create sensations that keep you on the edge of your seat. Witness how they transform setbacks into stepping stones, use refusals to spark growth, and turn rejections into catalysts for new inspiration. Witness the diversity in writing as it gives birth to a vast array of genres, from drama to mystery to children's stories, fantasy, and reality. Join us as we uncover sources of inspiration and the magic that defines the author's craft. Find out how authors breathe life into their characters and meticulously craft narratives and plots that captivate readers. Get a sneak peek into upcoming works, and join us as we celebrate literary greatness, only on the Writers' Corner. We don't just celebrate best-selling Amazon and New York Times authors, but also indie authors. Join us on the journey from the birth of a tale to the creation of a masterpiece, only on the Writers' Corner live show. Stay tuned.
If you've just joined us, welcome to the Writers' Corner live show. If you are not yet following our show on social media, please do, and that way you'll get notified the next time we go live. In today's episode, we're going to be talking to the amazing Erna Buffie. Our live stream is brought to you courtesy of StreamYard, BeLive Media, and Creative Edge. But before we invite Erna to join us, I'd like to say hello to my friend and co-host, Mary Elizabeth Jackson. We've been doing the show together for the past 6 years. And if you haven't yet met Mary, she is a #1 Amazon best-selling author, a certified special needs and disability advocate, dedicating to empowering underrepresented voices through her writing and her advocacy. Mary's also a speaker, educator, ghostwriter, and songwriter. How are you today, my friend?
I am fabulous. And I was going to say 6 years. Yes, we're so excited. And we promise we're going to be bringing a show with lots of authors on that we've had for the past, you've said over 300. And so we can't do all 300 because everyone's busy, but we can get at least quite a few of them on, which would be really exciting. And I love our topic today because we've not dove into this a lot, I think, over the last 6 years. We have with certain people, but I'm excited to do it today.
Absolutely. So welcome everyone, wherever you're watching on social media and also over on YouTube. If you've not met our amazing guest yet, Erna Buffie is an award-winning documentary filmmaker and writer whose work has reached global audiences through platforms such as CBC, PBS, and National Geographic. She's known for films such as Smarty Pants and Recreating Eden. Her storytelling delves deep into the connection between nature, science, and humanity. Her debut novel, which we're going to be talking about today, Let Us Be True, was a finalist for the Margaret Laurence Award for Fiction and explores how secrets shape generations. But who better to tell us about her story than Erna herself? So let's give her a warm welcome to the show, shall we?
Yes. Hello. Do you feel special?
Welcome.
Oh, yes. After that introduction, incredibly special.
Well,
It
you
was
are
lovely.
special. You're very special. You're doing special work in this world and important work. And we're going to dive right in so we can get all our questions in. Your films often explore the relationship between science and nature. How do these themes influence your fiction, especially with your new novel, Let Us Be True?
I think to a certain extent, if film affects the way I write in any way, it's that I think visually when I'm writing. So if I'm creating a scene, I can see it in my head as if I was running a film. So, for example, in the chapter about Winnie, when Jolene's walking up the stairs and you can hear the song playing in the background, that's very much, it's really about seeing. It's really about, creating a scene that is alive and vibrant and engaging. And I think that's what filmmaking brings, more so than, I suppose there are aspects of the book where I bring in nature. Nature becomes a force in the background. But I would say more than anything else, it's the techniques of filmmaking that have influenced me as a writer of fiction.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, let us be true. In the book, secrets play a very central role. What drew you to explore the idea of generational secrets, and how do you
Mm.
think they shape identity?
Uh, in every way. I mean, the women of my mother's generation, the men of my mother's generation who went to war, the women who lived through the Depression and the war, all of them, very few of them spoke about what that meant, how the war impacted them. Like, I remember an instance where my stepdad got together with his brothers and they started talking about the war, and it was all sort of positive reminiscences. His accidentally meeting his brother in London, but there were much darker stories behind that. And you could even feel it in the room. So I wanted to explore how somebody like Pearl, and in the Depression, so many children were abandoned, literally thousands of children were abandoned, and that's essentially what happens to Pearl. Her both her parents die, and she winds up being raised by her aunt and uncle. And the secret, I don't want to do any spoilers, but the secrets that inform who she becomes are quite tragic, and they lead to somebody who, thinks she's protecting her daughters by not telling them about her past, and in the end she's passing on that past in a strange way to her daughters by being unable to sort of emotionally connect with them.
And that, I think that's really tricky as a mother. Like, what do you tell your children about your past, even if it wasn't
Mm,
like sorted? You know what I mean? Just
yeah,
anything. We all have skeletons. We all have things that have happened in our life, traumas
yeah,
and things. And how much do we tell our kids? And I know that there's been a difference for me and probably Bridgetti as well, depending on their age. But even as young adults, like I have, I still hold back some things. But some things I've done for that awareness in life, like what it taught me.
yeah,
So you will
yeah,
know that kind of
yeah.
thing. So it's very important. As a filmmaker, you're adept at telling visual stories, like you've told us, and that's really great. It's such a benefit, right, to be able to see it in your head as a film already. How does your process of
Yeah.
writing differ when creating narratives for the screen versus for the page? Is there a big difference for you?
No, it's all storytelling. I mean, one way, whether you're making a documentary film or you're writing a novel, you're telling a story. And so you have to have a good sense of structure, a good sense of how this story is going to unfold over time, where you want to take the audience on that journey. The parallels are strangely very similar because it's, like I said, it's all storytelling. So, the other thing about the book is it's not a straight narrative. You're moving back and forth between different points of view, different characters from the past and the present. And I think filmmaking informed that process as well, because you can make a hard cut in filmmaking and take somebody from one location to another location very abruptly, but they play off one another. So that's what I was trying to do in the book, that each separate chapter about Pearl's life, or her sister, or her father, or her children, I hope at least that they're playing off one another. So it's enlarging the picture of Pearl from many different perspectives, from her daughter's perspective, her sisters, her brothers. So you get this very cantankerous old woman, but I hope over time you come to understand her, because you're seeing the things that influenced her and the people that she's loved and lost, primarily lost. So and that's why I think it is a good idea to tell secrets sometimes, because in Pearl's case, if her daughters had known the kind of losses their mother had lived through, they might have been much more sympathetic to the woman she'd become.
That's incredible. My next question for you kind of ties in with what you just said. Um,
Mm.
your novel spans multiple generations and historical events. So, how do you approach weaving together the past and the present? And did you have any challenges balancing the timelines?
Yeah, it's always you hit on something really important, because one thing in changing time frames is you never want the audience to go, "Oh shoot, I wish I was back in the modern story. Like, why am I being taken to this historical place?" So, yeah, it was something I was conscious of, but because I was building the story around this one character, there was a certain level of ease going, from Pearl present day to her sister Winnie in 1945. It wasn't a leap, and I hope it makes sense to people. I think it does. And
Right.
I think,
Well,
there's so many things that influenced her, not just her family, not just the loss of her family, but all those boys who went to war, so many of them who didn't come back, her living in a small town and experiencing so many young men being destroyed by the war. Is Yeah, it's those events that really shaped her. Those events, those people that are grounded in those events, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
okay, very good point. And that's important what you touched on about you want to make sure people want to go from one perspective to another and
Yes.
enjoy both of those places that they're at in a story, whether it's a film or a book. Okay,
Yeah.
in your novel, and Let Us Be True, Pearl's family is haunted by secrets stretching back generations. What do you think is the lasting emotional impact of unspoken truth within families? And that's kind of a loaded question, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it varies. I mean, because the trauma varies, or the experience varies. Um, I think it's really important, though, that I mean, one of the things I realized when my mother died was there were a lot of questions I hadn't asked her. And if I'd asked those questions, I might have understood her a bit better. And I sort of feel like that's the situation Darlene and Carol are in. They're so alienated from their mother. They don't ask her any questions about, yeah, and Darlene confronts that when after she has an abortion, and she's dealing with her mother and keeping secrets, and then going, what secrets does she have? But never asking. It's only as Pearl becomes ill and Darlene goes to her and finds photographs and starts asking hard questions like, who is this person, Mom? Like, why are you in this photograph with this person? What happened then? And Pearl's inability to sort of open to that is so tragic. And so instead she tells her daughter's partner, she does the stranger on the train sort of thing. She tells Athena, Darlene's partner, about her past, hoping that Athena will eventually pass it on to her kids. But we never really know in the book whether that eventually happens or not. But we hope it does. And she has moments of redemption with her daughters. And I think that's how redemption happens to all of us. It's in small moments. It's in a moment where suddenly your mother turns to you and says, I love you, or you're precious to me, or my sweet girl. Those are the moments where if a relationship with a mother has been fraught, those are the moments where you go, okay, this person does love me. This person has accepted me. So I don't know
Wow.
whether that answers your question or not, but
I think I was listening to you and just relating that to my own experience. And there are often questions we feel that are uncomfortable that we never end up
yeah,
asking. And when the person passes, we wish we had the courage to ask those uncomfortable questions. But I like that you mentioned photographs because, looking through albums, and that's why pictures are so important. Getting them printed, having those albums, because it allows us to ask the more uncomfortable questions by
yeah,
simply, asking a simple question, what happened in this picture? So I really
yeah.
like that.
Yeah, and it's pivotal to the book, that Darlene finds, tucked away at the back of a cupboard, um, a collection of photographs of Pearl from the past, which opens up a door for her. Carol wants to keep that door closed, but Darlene wants to open it up and wants to find out more about her mother,
So I want to delve a little bit
whether she
into
loved her
your.
father. Go
Sorry,
ahead.
sorry for interrupting you. Carry on.
No, Darlene becomes Darlene knows she's different, and not just because she's gay. She knows that there's something in the family that separates her from them. And once she sees the photograph, that's when she starts asking questions about, as much as about who Pearl is, she starts asking questions about, who am I? And who am I in relation to my mother? So yeah, I think photographs are quite magical. And if there are things you don't know about your parents, looking at those photographs can sometimes open a door onto them.
So, Smarty Pants shows us the unseen world of plant intelligence. And
Hmm.
Let Us Be True delves more into hidden emotional worlds. What
Yes,
is it that fascinates you about the concept of the unseen and the hidden?
that's a really good question. I guess it's because I love that sense of wonder that engenders, that there is a world of plants we know nothing about, that they move in a different time zone, a different realm, a different and have a different way of understanding and interacting with their environment. I it's wondrous to me, in the same way that when I was writing Pearl, it was wondrous to me how she had managed to even survive after everything she'd been through and all the losses she'd experienced. So yeah, I think it's that the world is more mysterious, more awe-inspiring, more wonderful than we could ever imagine. And that's true for people and plants. And
It
the
is,
plant, I mean,
absolutely.
making the film about plants was mind-blowing, working with those scientists and what they're discovering about how sensile they are, how they actually can feel and sense their environment and interact with other creatures within that environment through chemical signaling. It was it, it was wonderful. And I kind of felt the same way in the process of writing the novel, that every time I took up a new character or every time I turned a page to a different time zone, I felt the same sense of the world kind of opening up and things being revealed. Um, and it's yeah, both processes are very satisfying and very much, you're left, even as a writer, you're left in awe. I mean, there are moments, there are days when you go, did I write that? Did I really write that?
Right.
Like it's like a form of possession. It's like you get involved in the moment and you start writing, and suddenly this whole other world opens up, and it's quite a wonderful, quite
It's
a
a really,
wonderful thing to do and to experience.
it's a cool place to be. And it's sort of like
It is
it's just you're channeling through the
channeling.
creativity,
It feels,
flowing,
yeah,
it's
it feels,
flowing through you. Yeah.
yeah,
So
it feels
I
very
would,
much like
what, how long
other
is the
days it just
document?
feels like hard work.
Oh yeah, I know, right? Those are not fun days. Um, that's that's like editing. Editing's like, oh
Yeah,
gosh, could we do anything other than
yeah,
that? But um,
yeah.
what advice would you give to aspiring writers who want to blend personal, historical, and fictional elements in their work to create something emotionally resonant?
I think that's another really good question.
I was
I think
thinking
if
that as
you're,
I was asking, I was like, oh, we're going to stump her for a
yeah,
second.
ooh, yeah, yeah. I would say the only advice I could give is write from the heart. Like,
Yeah.
get out of your head and write from the heart and know your subject. Do the research, know the time period, know, you know, talk to as many people who have lived through that time as you possibly can. And then start writing.
Yeah.
And in order to write believable characters, you also have to master dialogue. And dialogue, I think, is something that comes from listening. You know, I
Mm.
spent years in a cutting room listening to interviews, listening to people with different accents, people from South Africa, people from the United States talking, and you get a sense of the cadence of their language, the way they use words, and there's no replacement for great dialogue. You know, you can
Absolutely.
write as many descriptive scenes as you want, but if you can't make those characters come alive on the page through dialogue, they aren't going to
That's
live.
right. It's a dead
Incredible
book,
points.
basically.
Wow.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
are.
it's something that I watch a lot. If I'm given, friends will give me their manuscripts and ask for sort of feedback. And often the feedback is, it may be structural, but it's often too in the realm of, you might want to consider cutting this description and expanding this interaction, this dialogue, this action that's happening in the book. Because that's when the
Yeah.
Erna,
characters really come alive.
yeah. Erna, before we run out of time, your cover is absolutely gorgeous. Please
Thank
show us your
you.
book and tell us a little bit about
Yes.
that cover.
Yeah, it is
Well, it's
beautiful.
an interesting story because my first cover was much darker, darker both in terms of color, but also in terms of the subject of the photograph. This is also, my first cover was a photo from the 1930s taken by the famous photographers that were hired by the Department of Agriculture to document the Depression. And this
Mm.
one is too. So this is an actual photo, I think, taken in Wyoming or someplace like that in the Badlands during the Depression. And it just spoke to me so beautifully, not only of Pearl as a child, but her mother and their
Wow,
relationship.
that's
Yeah, it was
amazing.
Well, and then the publisher took it and colorized it, and it came alive even more.
It's beautiful. I love the hues
Yeah.
and everything. Now, was that photo open domain, or did y'all have to get permission to use it?
It was open. No, it was open domain.
Okay.
This is something, I suggest other writers do that, is like, particularly if you're writing a historical novel, get
Mhm.
as many images from that period as you can, and think about how those images tell you the story of the time. Because
Sure.
like those 1930s photographs are, Dorothea Lange, they're extraordinary photos that capture a time and place that's that was apocalyptic in a sense.
Oh, very
But they're
apocalyptic.
yeah, beautiful human storytelling through photography.
Oh my gosh, yes. And
But
my
I'm glad you
grandmother,
like it, because I love it
We
too.
love it.
yeah, we love it.
We do like
And
it.
when it
We
was
do like it.
colorized, I loved it even more.
Right, it's beautiful. It gives it a totally different look and feel to it. And my grandmother nursed the store owner in town during the Depression. She nursed their children because she had so much breast milk. They couldn't afford
Wow,
groceries. So she nursed the store owner's children so they traded for groceries during the Depression.
that's an amazing story.
I
That's a
know,
story
isn't
you need
it?
to tell, Mary.
I know. It's
That's an
it's
incredible
amazing what
story.
our families in the past, the things that they went through, and we're living today, and you feel like, what in the world does anyone need to be complaining about?
Oh, yeah. I was just talking to a friend about that the other day, and how privileged this generation is, and how entitled
Oh,
they feel.
oh God.
Entitled to granite countertops and, gigantic single family dwellings, and it's crazy. It's crazy. It's become crazy. And
Well,
yet
into
there's a
digital.
whole slew of people who remain invisible, who are living very different lives right in our own countries.
Yeah.
And I think, uh, yeah, I've stopped consuming,
I think people have lost the plot
except
somewhere
for
along
what's
the line,
absolutely
and they need a reality check from stories like
I
yours and
agree.
stories like Mary's, just to rein us in a little bit and,
I agree.
focus on the more important things.
I
We have to
agree.
wrap it up. I can't believe, as always, we are out of time. We could talk for hours, especially to you because you've got so much to share. But it brings us to the end of another incredible episode of the Writers' Corner live show. So a huge thanks to you, Erna, for sharing your inspiring journey, your award-winning films, and thought-provoking novel, Let Us Be True. So if you haven't bought the novel yet, please go and check out the novel. It is available on Amazon, so go and grab a copy.
Thank you,
And
Bridgetti.
thanks
It's
to
been a
everyone who's
pleasure.
tuned in.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so, so much. We'll have to have you back on. We're going to follow what you're doing.
For
Okay,
sure,
sounds
for
good.
sure. Until next time, everyone, keep writing, keep reading, and keep embracing the power of stories. Thank you for joining us on the Writers' Corner live show. 30 minutes of insightful author conversations with some of the biggest names in the industry, including award-winning authors and international indie sensations. Join us on the next episode of the Writers' Corner live show.